Like a lot of people, I live in an apartment and headphones have always been just more practical. But after many years of not having a stereo and not hearing Vin Diesel say family in high definition, the itch just got way too much. My house is first and foremost a house, and I did not want to add clutter. My house being a normal living space for me, my wife, and our cats, and our many plants, means that acoustically it is not all that great. The room acoustics is so bad that a mic drop takes 3 business days to hit the floor. You'll have to wait for the end of the video for the mic drop. And more jokes. Now, I already have way too many hobbies, and even tango-free stuff, whatever that means, tango for me. I started looking for cheap used active speakers, found a pair that I liked, and bought them for less than $50 and then immediately started looking for a powered subwoofer. I would also like to add that I listen to many soundbars, even some in a listening room. They sucked for music, but did a better job with movies due to the way that I handle surround sound. I still wouldn't buy one though, especially not the units that shot at the solid 70 decibels when you power it on or change the modes. My vacuum cleaner does that enough already. As you can see, my active speakers only have input for RCA and 6.3mm balanced cables. No subwoofer out and no pass-through. I bought this knowing well of this limitation and knew I could easily fix this by buying a subwoofer with RCA out, and I also knew that such subwoofers would have a crossover or a low pass filter. I struggled for a bit, but by pure luck I bought a Wharfedale Crystal 2 subwoofer with RCA out and a knob that read frequency crossover. Yay! And nope. This was only a low pass filter on the subwoofer. The RCA was just a pass through, so no filtering. But while I was mumbling away, you checked the frequency range of the Artesia and saw that it was from 75 Hz with a slope before that. So no big deal, right? Now, a couple of sine sweeps showed that there still was some bass energy. Not that I needed to do one. This is just because this is the internet and I like good housekeeping. Also, the speakers are not in the ideal position, so reducing bass would solve room issues. By now, you're all just thinking, wow, this guy is just a full of rubbish audiophile. But no, I just grew up with a house full of 2 great stereos and I miss good sound and I know what good sound can be. I also had a couple of cars with custom speaker setups and all with crossovers, so I also know what a big difference proper crossovers can do. Back to my issue, I was running my system from a 3.5mm headphone out as I wanted a super cheap, no fuss setup. But the headphone out from my TV had crazy bass levels when compared to standalone DACs, even with all the sound customizations turned off. I'm pretty sure the DAC itself is fine, it's just that the implementation of the filtering thereof was pretty bad. I've had this before, but this has never been an issue since all the systems my family has ever owned had some sort of bass control, EQ, or heck, even automated room correction, just like this unit that my dad used to own. So great, yeah, problem solved. Just use this amp and you can set your crossovers. And nope, the crossovers are only for passive speakers and the RCA out is pass through with no filtering EQ or anything like that. I looked online, but everything I could find was for passive speakers and was around the $100 price new or about $50 for used gear. I am also not a big fan of inline physical crossovers or anything electrical that I don't fully understand. Fast forward 2 whole weeks for looking for some sort of reasonably priced solution and getting constantly trolled by AI recommending $600 gear as cheap and budget. I stumbled on the FIA BR13 and bought it with my own money. First off, FIA, your SEO sucks. And second, I buy all my gear with my own money, so please like and subscribe. While searching for all the possible solutions online, I found that the cheapest option by far would be digital EQ, and digital EQ would also not create other problems down the line. I tested this a week before finding the VO BR13 by using equalizer APO on a laptop with a huge 12 decibel drop in bass and adjusting the audio level on the subwoofer accordingly. My subwoofer has a ton of volume headroom and me and my wife listen at low volumes, so this is not an issue. Also, another thing to note is that while some TVs might come with EQ settings, most of them will only EQ the TV itself. I now have the VO BR13 and I love it, and my setup is great. I will also have a review of it up soon. So yeah, my story ended well. But I had many issues. Issues that were solved way before I was ever even born. And not just that, I would have had a cheaper and better setup if I just went and bought that Sony amp and some passive speakers. And I know that there are better powered speakers out there. Active speakers with ER, coaxial, Bluetooth, integrated apps, EQ, and the list goes on. But I wanted to do it for super cheap, and I wanted the cleanest setup, and I was also a bit curious about powered speakers. So if you want to buy passive speakers, here are the 6 things that you need to know. First and foremost, buy active speakers with some sort of tone controls, the right digital inputs that you need, crossover or low and high pass filters, or anything to cut bass. Also make sure that your powered speaker have a subwoofer out. Even if your powered speakers go all the way down to 20 Hz, you still need a subwoofer. The second thing that I learned with active speakers is that you are straight out of luck for any cheap all-in-one solutions. You will need to get specific items at a premium, while passive speakers has a ton of ready and cheap solutions for any sort of change that you want to do. A big chunk of modern AV amp receivers have digital crossovers as well, which in my experience from car audio is a lot better than passive ones. The third thing that I learned is that my TV has a rubbish headphone output. Even a person that is 90% deaf will be able to hear the bass difference between the TV and just any cheap DAC. All other DACs or headphone outputs from electronics I own, including one in a camera field monitor, were fine. From memory, the bass increase was close to 6 dB at 52 Hz, with level matching at 1100 Hz. The fourth thing is not something that I've learned, but something that I've always known. And that is, unless you have a perfectly treated room with three-way active speakers that reach all the way down to 20 Hz, then you need a dedicated subwoofer. Not to mention that the crossovers need to be of a good quality and that you will need multiple ports if the speaker is ported. And many more. Also, if you have a dedicated subwoofer, you get to partake in the ancient traditions of the Bassius Crollius, and you get to at least try and tame the low frequency characteristics of your room. The fifth thing is that while AI might be great at giving usable code, it is absolutely terrible at audio advice. I wish I kept some of the screenshots, but some of the electricity hacks it gave for car audio equipment was downright dangerous and would even give Styropyro a fire. And finally, the last thing is that in most situations, Netflix makes it almost impossible to choose stereo, and most TVs don't do downsampling, leading you to hear whispers when Vin Diesel is saying family, and explosions for each and every gear shift. This would be a cheap fix for a surround sound receiver with an integrated amp. I could simply buy a cheap used center speaker and small cheap satellites, but because my speakers are already powered, I would need to buy a fan with even more powered speakers. Or simply just save a ton of money and buy a surround sound setup. Even new would be cheaper. So yeah, my story ended well. But I would have been so much better off with just a passive setup. I know these are technically for studio use, but I wanted speakers with really great mids, and these have really great mids. I was also getting bombarded with info of other people using powered speakers for movie setups. But yeah, sounds great, doesn't work. Or, well, actually no, sounds bad, doesn't work. Buy passive. Make it surround bit by bit if you can't afford it outright, but most of all, just enjoy the sound. I hope that you enjoyed this video and that you at least learned something or laughed at my expense and trauma. And if you did, then please like and subscribe. Else, just comment some jokes about how bad my room treatment is. Thank you so much for watching and I'll see you in the next video. Okay, slaar. Ja. Hoor gaan my jokes, Blommy. Your room acoustics is so bad, you can hear your own thoughts fading out like a 80s band pop song. Your room acoustics is so bad, a simple hello turns into a 3-hour podcast that you never wanted to listen to. Your room acoustics is so bad, the echo gets lost, panics and asks for directions back to your mouth.